Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today's video is going to be the continuation of this little series that I've been doing, a Makeup for Life series, I guess you could call it, where today we're going to be covering highlights, and I have landed on a reasonable number that I feel I could stick with these highlights for life, and that is 6. Considerably less than the number of blushes that I felt like I needed to keep in my life, and a lot less than the number of lipsticks like I felt was a reasonable number to land on. So yeah, when I looked through my highlight collection, I felt like 6 highlights for life. I could do it. I could do it easily. And yeah, these are the ones that I would want to keep. If we were just keeping 6, this would be it. So if you are new here, you might not know this about me, but I am a natural-ish, luminous, smooth highlight kind of lady. Okay, that's my jam. That's what I like. That's what tickles my pickle. I like a smooth, melt into the skin, luminosity. Is she wearing highlight or is she just blessed by angels? We don't know. Who can tell? That's my kind of style. So that's what you should mainly expect, with a couple of wild cards thrown in there just for funsies. So let's start off with probably my favourite out of these. Probably. I think so. I think it is. The rest of these are not going to be ranked in any way, but this I think is my favourite. I think it is. I'm pretty confident. That's what she said. I just don't want to go to court and testify that, but otherwise I'm okay to say that. So it's the Pat McGrath. This is the Divine Rose Skin Fetish Ultra Glow highlight, to give it its full name, which why wouldn't you? This is the one that I find myself reaching for the most. I would say out of all of these, it does what I want it to do the most out of all of these. It's glowy and luminous, it's natural, it sinks into the skin, it's foolproof. You can't go in too heavy with this. It's not possible. It can't be done. You could use a brick to apply this and it still wouldn't be too much, but you might have some redness to deal with, so that's on you. You can use any brush you like and it will still just always be soft, beautiful luminosity, and never a streak, never a stripe, never leave a cast. On my skin tone at least, it's just never going to do you dirty, and that's why I love it so much, because some of these others I have to be careful. I have to use a specific brush, I have to go light-handed, I have to work it in, I have to be either in my summer or my winter skin tone. This one I've yet to find a season where it doesn't just work beautifully for me. And that's why she's my fave. So there she is, pride of place as first swatcheroo. Absolutely stunning. Super smooth, this one. Super smooth. Next up, another one that kind of came out around the same time as that Pat highlight, and just the last year, I think it was 2020, when the majority of these highlights just came along and changed the game for me. Like, I was like, I like a highlight before that, you know, I'm not obsessed with it. It's not a desert island item for me. It's not a holy grail product. Last year it became one, because there was just these great highlights just came storming along in their thousands roughly. Next up, the I Need a Nude Glow from Natasha Denona. Now, this one is a totally different beast to the Pat McGrath. This, I would say, is a lot more on the blingy side of the highlight spectrum, if you will. But you can see there is definitely an extra level of shine to the Natasha Denona, whereas the Pat McGrath is a lot more soft and subtle, in my opinion. The I Need a Nude Glow is definitely like a pretty standard classic champagne tone, whereas the Pat McGrath definitely has a pinky shift to it, which I don't usually like. I don't typically enjoy a pinky shift, but in that highlight it just doesn't really notice. It doesn't pull pink on me. It just looks like my skin, honestly. This one is like, I'd say there's this and one other that I'm going to talk about that are like my night out, my full glam. I want to look like I'm wearing highlights. The Pat McGrath and some of these others, I just want to look like the light just is favouring me today. Like, she's just blessed. An angel is beaming a light on that lady right now. We don't know why. Who can say? But this is like one of my two favorites. If I'm going out, if I'm doing dinner, if I'm, you know, going on the red carpet to a premiere, which I don't know, one day that might happen. You don't know. Okay, anything can happen. But if I'm going full beat, full glam, I want to look like I've got a highlight on and I'm glowing from the gods. Well, I say that. I'm never really a champagne pop level of lady. This is kind of probably in between. This is as champagne pop level as it gets for me. I'm not a metallic beaming from space, my days she's got some highlight on kind of girl, but this is as much in that direction as I like to go. This has definitely got some beam, some reflection. It looks like you've got a gorgeous highlight on, but it still is smooth and it still blends in and it's still on the scale of highlights. This is like crazy alien beaming from space. This is like barely qualifies as a highlight. The Natasha Denona is like this halfway house. That's where she lives. The other highlight that I tend to reach for, if I'm feeling a bit extra glowy that day, if I want to look a bit more luminous, a bit more glowy, a bit more beaming, if I'm doing the most makeup wise, it's the Pat McGrath. This is the Golden Nectar highlight. So this is her Skin Fetish Divine. Do they have the same? So this one is called Ultra Glow and this is Divine Glow and this is the shade Golden Nectar. She teases us, Pat. She comes out with these different formulas and different shade names as if there's more coming, but then we don't see them. So I don't know what she's up to. She's cheeky little minx. This one I didn't love at first and I'll tell you for why. I'll tell you the reason why. There's a very specific reason. So I was expecting this one in a different shade. When this came out, that's what I thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to get this exact highlight formula, this very understated, I can't open it with one hand. Really was trying to be very clever there and it didn't pay off. We're here now. I could just cut that out and no one would know, but that's not really my style. So I was expecting this natural, like glowy, use a heavy hand and a, you know, dense brush and you're still going to have very little blending work to be done. It's going to blend itself and melt into the skin. So when I tried this and I used it in the same way that I usually use this one, it was slightly different. Okay, this one is more of a classic highlight. You can see, well, you probably can't see, but there's a bit of kick up here. This is definitely a more powdery, looser pressed. The Divine Rose is like almost like a gel, like it's slippy. There's like no powderiness to it. You could like rub a brush in there and you'll never get a speck of dust or powder, I should say. Kick up. You won't see it. You can't. It's not possible. This one, definitely when you swirl a brush, there's some kick up, there's some powderiness, it's looser pressed. So I should have known that danger was ahead, but I didn't because I'm stupid. So I applied this. It was like a streak. It was heavy. It was whoa, too much. Then I learned what was happening and it was a totally different formula. So the next time I used it, I used a fluffier, lighter brush and a lighter hand and oh, gorgeous. Now she definitely is, even on her kindest day, her lightest day, a different beast to the Divine Rose. She's definitely shinier, more dramatic, more intense, 100%. But used in the way that I want to use it, with a lighter hand, with a fluffier brush, it's just gorgeous. She definitely is more along the lines of the Natasha Denona I Need a Glow. Definitely for me, she's in that same halfway house. They live together. This one and the Natasha, they live in the same house, that halfway house. The Divine Rose, she lives over here somewhere. Okay, no one's going in that direction. That's just, we don't visit that town. It's dangerous there. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous. I really love the shade of this one. Very, very easy to work with now that I've learned her. You can see they're very similar colour, the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude and the Pat McGrath Golden Nectar. Very similar shades. You can see that sort of more champagne tone and then the pinky from the Divine Rose. But these are quite similar, I would say. And next up, the one cream slash liquid highlight that I would include in this little lineup, and it's the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk shade of her Beauty Light Wand. Now, unfortunately, this seems to be like unavailable slash sold out everywhere at the moment, but I do have hope that she's coming back. I have seen it come and go a good few times, and all of these ones, the contours, the blushes, the highlights, they seem to be in and out of stock. So yeah, I definitely would keep an eye, but honestly there's lots of shades of this, and I feel, you know, depending on your skin tone, you might like a different shade to the one that I pick, or just your preference for shade of highlight. This one runs obviously quite pinky, but the gorgeous thing about this one is it just melts into the skin, and as you can see now, this is really quite metallic, especially for my tastes, but once you blend this in, or you use a light hand and you just tap it, maybe go over with a sponge, it becomes super natural and gorgeous, and very healthy skin is how it looks. Again, it can look absolutely like you're not wearing highlight, you're just glowing and you're just blessed, and it's just beautiful. I do prefer to take something like this when I travel because it makes me nervous. Powder highlights make me nervous to travel with, so I try to avoid that wherever possible, but these are gorgeous, just a dream. One of the easiest cream products to work with, in my opinion, that I've ever found, given that I just hate creams and liquids. That one actually has like made it into a fairly regular use, which is doesn't happen around these parts. Back to the powders, the comfort zone, another highlight that I love that kind of lives in the halfway house as well, and it's the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Superstar Glow highlight, this ginormous thing that we're never going to get through. This is a kind of formula wise sits a little bit between the two Pat McGrath formulas. This feels a bit more sort of like a creamy type hybrid formula. It's not loose as such, but it does have a more powder kick up, that kind of thing. I definitely have to go in with a lighter hand with this one. The sheen on this is just stunning. Look at the sheen on that. Yes. Let's go back into a close-up. So now we have the Pat McGrath, we have the Natasha Denona, then we have the other Pat McGrath, then we have the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light Wand, and now here we have the Charlotte Tilbury Superstar. Again, this kind of falls into this sort of shade range. It's like a classic champagne-y highlight, but this one definitely has a bit of a lighter quality. So this is kind of like my go-to in winter. For me, this is one that you can definitely customize. It's easily blended in to be really super soft and natural, but at the same time you can apply more and get a really beaming highlight, and it just is a perfect color for like my skin tone. I'd say light to medium skin tone in the winter. This is like just perfect because the shade is just exactly right for my skin tone. In summer I can't really use this, it just leaves too much of a cast. It's just a bit too light for my skin tone in summer, but in winter it's gorgeous. It's definitely kind of in between the like Natasha Denona, the more beaming Natasha Denona and Pat McGrath highlights, and the more subtle Pat McGrath that lives down here, but it's just gorgeous. You could easily wear that. That's probably the more versatile because it can go full beaming or supernatural depending on the brush you use and how much you use. So it's quite nice to have in my collection. That's why I've included it here, because although it's not my absolute favorite, and I do probably prefer all of the other powder highlights to this one that I've mentioned so far as an all-around option, but I feel like you can probably get more versatile finish out of this one than those. So if you're kind of looking for like you want to own one highlight like a normal person, then that would be a great one because you can do anything with it. If it's going to work for your skin tone, that is, then you can use it to work, to school, for a super natural no makeup day, and on a night out when you want to be glowing from the gods. This will do it all. And it will last you for 17 years. That's the rumour. And last but not least, my newest highlight to my collection. And it's one of the new Dior Luminous. And it's one of the Dior Forever Couture luminizers, and this is the shade Nude Glow. So I picked up Rosewood Glow at first, and the first time I used it, I just felt like the colour was a little off, so I wanted to try a different colour because I loved the formula, but I felt like it's kind of leaving, is it leaving a bit of a cast? Does it look a bit off? Was it pulling almost a bit grey on me? And I've since grown to love that one a lot more because I just apply it with a lighter hand and now it looks gorgeous and I'm not having that issue with the colour. But I'd already asked my friend Tavia, Chic Profile Official on Instagram, if I could buy her Nude Glow from her because she was selling it, and so she sent this to me so I could try the shade, and I definitely prefer this one. I like both. The Rosewood Glow I think is gorgeous. The reason I prefer this one is that this one is much more subtle than the Rosewood Glow. Obviously there are differences in shades with that range, as they released one that's like super shimmery. This one is like super natural and understated luminosity. The Rosewood Glow is a bit more amped up, but this one is perfect for my skin tone. There is a Nude Glow, they had a different formula, and this is like the nude formula of Nude Glow, and I saw my friend Kelsey, Brianna J, she did a comparison between this Nude Glow and the original Nude Glow, and found that this one was, again, like I said, much more subtle and understated than the original, which is presumably why I love it so much. So let's pop her here. Now you can see this is definitely a bit brighter than the Charlotte Tilbury. It's got a bit more punch to it, but let's say for giggles, let's build up that Charlotte Tilbury swatch so you can see what I'm talking about. Can you see there? So you can see there how much more shine suddenly the Charlotte Tilbury, and these almost look like dupes now. Just I'd say the Dior is like a slightly brighter and lighter, and the Charlotte Tilbury is just slightly warmer maybe. But they are very, very similar. I think the Charlotte Tilbury almost has a little pinkier shift to it, and the Dior is almost the exact colour of my skin tone. And that's why I love this one so much, because it is absolutely perfect as far as shade. It's absolutely spot on. It's imperceptible to the human naked eyeball. There's just no visible sign of where highlight starts and finishes, where my foundation meets highlight or bronzer meets highlight. It just melts flawlessly into the skin. I think it's gorgeous, this formula, and this shade definitely, I think the shade does suit me more than Rosewood Glow, but the formula suits my taste better as well, and it's just beautiful. This is actually the highlight that I have on today, and you can just see how natural and soft and understated and how it melts into the skin, and it's just a gorgeous delight. Let's have one final little close-up sneaky peeky doodle. So this is the Divine Rose Pat McGrath. Then we have the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude Glow. Then we have Golden Nectar from Pat McGrath. Then we have the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Beauty Light Wand. Then we have the Charlotte Tilbury Superstar Glow. And finally we have the new Dior Nude Glow in that luminizer formula. There you have them all for you. Hopefully you can see the differences in colour and finish. Now, honestly, I feel like for the vast majority of people, 1 or 2 highlights is more than enough. At max, you maybe need one that gives you more glow if you want it, and one that's a bit more soft if you want it. If, like me, you kind of sometimes want to be more glowy than others, if you just always want to glow from the gods, then you could easily just get away with one highlight, pick your favourite, and that's the one that you need. I certainly feel like I could live with maybe half of this number. 3 highlights would pretty much cut it for me to be able to use it in winter or summer, depending on whether I'm tanned or not, to make some of these work for my skin tone. Some of these work better and are more easy to get away with whether I'm tanned or not. Some will become too light or too deep depending on what my skin tone is doing, but some are more flexible than that. Some can be built up to be more glowy, some are just glowy or not. Some are more versatile as far as finish. They can be built up or used with a different brush and they'll give you much more beaming highlights. Some are just the way that they are. You really, I don't think, unless maybe you used a wet brush, are not going to get a huge amount of a metallic Beaming from Space highlight out of this one, for example. And I don't think you're necessarily going to get that out of the Dior either, again, unless you use maybe a wet brush. But for example, the other Pat McGrath, the Golden Nectar, that can be used nice and soft and subtle, or stunning out of this world beaming. So depending on what you're looking for, the type of finish, the type of shade, the level of luminosity, I feel like these 6 kind of cover all of the bases for me, which is why I went for 6 highlights for life, because I think we've got all bases and all preferences covered between these 6, all of the moods that I may choose at any moment. So there you have it. These are my 6 highlights for life. Please let me know what your highlighters for life are and what number you feel like that's how many I could live with. I don't need any more or less than that. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.